Okay, John.
Are we recording?
Yep. Recording more Metroid Prime.
Okay.
So, you had a topic.
Yeah. It's been a while since I thought about this, but I came across really fantastic. She's been with the University of Philadelphia of Arts or something like that as professor.
Okay.
Her name's Camille Paglia.
What does she do?
Well, she's a professor with the Philadelphia.
Well, what does she specifically do as a professor?
Art stuff.
Art stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Art culture. She's written. Okay, so basically, she was really big in the '90s because she wrote a couple books that. Well, she wrote a bunch of books, but then her first one that she got published, which she actually wrote in the '80s, she just couldn't get it published for 10 years. Was called Sexual Persona, and it ended up being a really big deal. And for a while, she was like a pretty important public intellectual person. And she's like, David Bowie put her on her list of 100 greatest books, that kind of thing. And he literally put her on the list. He didn't even say which book. He just said Camille Paglia. It was like a whole bunch of titles.
Anything she writes.
There's like a whole bunch of titles, some graphic novels, a couple of things like that, some comic strips and that. And it just writes Camille Paglia. So she comes very highly recommended. But she kind of never totally broke out as like a main public. It's like she kind of went away for a bit. She still does interviews and that kind of thing, but it seems like she's fallen from grace a bit as a speaker, public intellectual. But I'm bringing her up just because she is the newest out of like my giant roster of people who are completely disenfranchised with modern feminism. And she was a feminist in the '60s. She's like 70 years old now.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was a feminist in the '60s, part of the part of the second wave and all that.
The big movement.
She was huge in her university, where she went to Yale, among other places, and she actually went to another school before then, where she got Judith Butler, who was like one of the biggest. What are you doing in this game?
So I'm in a room and I'm fighting the ghost people.
And you're just looking around for them?
Well, so there's this giant tree in the center, and it's annoying because they always hide behind it, and every time you get to the other side, they just pop up on the other side, so you're just kind of scanning the room waiting for them to be in your sights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, one of the things that Camille Paglia did was she got Judith Butler. Judith Butler is pretty central to feminism, to come speak at the university for like a reduced cost because she actually went in person to go beg Judith Butler to go speak at her university and stuff like that. So she's pretty into like the second wave feminism thing, and she absolutely hates feminism since the '90s. And even that
because it's not really the same thing as it was supposed to be.
Exactly.
Right.
She's like, it's been a while since I like. It was basically I just stayed up for hours looking at videos on YouTube. Found her, or just basically watch hours of her videos because I just found her all of a sudden. I was like, wow, this woman's great. And that was it. I haven't returned to it since then. But like basically a lot of her views is that modern feminism is actually disempowering rather than empowering. Because she's saying that modern feminism wants to increase the nanny state. It wants to increase authoritarian. It wants people. It's basically saying you need to take care of us. You need to take better care of us. Make some safe spaces for us.
Oh, adjust society for them as opposed to them adjusting to society.
Basically, the way she put it is like females for most of history have been coddled, have been treated like children.
Right.
And they're like, no, we don't need to be treated like children. We can take care of ourselves. And part of that, and rape for her was a very big part of this, where she's saying the modern feminists are getting raped totally wrong. She's saying...
Oh.
Well, she's saying
That's
stuff
different.
you should be you should be trusting us to not get raped, right? That's what we're saying. Is like, if we go out at night, it's up to us whether we get, how to take care of ourselves, right?
Okay.
We don't need you to be our babysitters. We'll take care of it, and you don't worry about it.
So then what are feminists doing instead?
Oh, it's,
Modern feminists.
Yeah. So, it's basically a lot of, crying about victim blaming and stuff like that. Like, for example, Camille Paglia will say something like, it's absolutely, here's the bit of the dialogue. So, somebody gets raped, or not somebody, but somebody who is actually acting in a very risky behavior gets raped, right? You know, they're getting drunk
there-
at a frat.
Okay,
house,
I was about
you know,
to say,
that
do you
kind
have
of
an
thing,
example?
right?
Drunk at a frat. And
Yeah. And of course it's horrible that they get raped. That's not supposed to happen. But at the same time, it's like you were drunk at a frat house, right? And a lot of modern feminists would say, well, that's victim blaming, even though it's totally not. And Camille Paglia will say, well, look, no, you have to take responsibility for your actions. You have to recognize that, like, I was completely... And nobody's excusing the rape. Nobody's saying that it's like, well, then, of course, then it's okay to rape somebody like
She's
that.
taking it from another... Just taking it a bit further. Saying it's not just one thing.
Exactly, yeah. She's saying, I mean... You know, it's sticking your head in the lion's jaws, right? And then being surprised when the lion bites.
Yes. That's a very good example of... It doesn't just apply to rape, either.
Yeah.
It's all dumb decisions in
well,
general.
for some reason, rape is like one of those things for feminists being like, well, no, you can't ever blame the victim. And it's like, but you kind of have to, if depending on how the victim was behaving. Of course, like, you don't want to, but at the same time, if they're making bad decisions, you have to say, like, that's a really bad decision.
I guess
Right?
something on a better subject would be, if you're drinking, don't go driving.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to blame the driver, right? It's among that. You can't blame the victim, right? Which would, in this case would be the driver who was drinking.
I
But
guess
no,
so,
it was
yeah.
his fault because he was drinking. He made the decision to then drive,
Yeah.
whether it was a inhibited decision or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So for her, feminism is about the opposite. It's about empowering females and saying, "Look, we're grown ups. We can handle our own life choices." Instead of having to appeal to the state to constantly like readjust the world to suit your conveniences, right, or your particular needs, even not even conveniences, but just particular needs.
Yeah. I can totally see that.
Yeah, so it was quite refreshing.
To me, it's
come
not
across her.
controversial. It's just taking something one step further that needs to be done and said, as
Yeah.
controversial as it could be.
Well, part of it is also that she was doing it in the early '90s, and like I like she's saying quite a few things that people I've heard people say before, but most of these other speakers have been within the last 10 years.
So she was just way ahead of the game.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
so. Or it's just like what she was saying was not half as controversial as it used. Maybe it's a lot more
Like
controversial.
if she came out and said it now, it would be much more controversial.
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
I think it was just common sense.
Because
For a long
today
time.
is just so safe space oriented.
Yeah, well, because I think it was just common sense for the longest amount of time, right?
Right.
It's like, well, you just don't get
that's-
drunk with a bunch of horny frat guys around you.
That's why I'm not really reacting too much because it sounds like it's common sense.
Exactly, right? But this is
You don't
kind
want
of-
X to happen. You don't go to place Y.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and to a certain degree, it's like,
You can go drinking, but it doesn't have to be at a frat party
yeah,
with a bunch of dudes trying to get another notch on their belt.
and to a certain degree, there is an amount of innocence here, where it's like, well, shit, like, of course you don't expect anything like that to happen, and of course you never want something like that to happen. But at the same time, I'm like, well, look, the feminism that Camille Paglia is talking about is the one where it's saying innocence is not an answer. It's saying that you should be weathered, you should be wise. That's what you're putting yourselves out as. You're saying that you're weathered and wise.
I like these choice of words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be the experienced person. That's the whole idea of Camille Paglia's feminism, is that you're an adult. And if you can't behave like an adult and you can't handle the adult world, then you're just not ready for it. Right? But
Yeah,
that's
I like
not
that.
modern feminism. Modern feminism
No.
is about readjusting the rest of the world to suit, the fucking, like, sheltered, coddled state that a lot of teenagers are in now.
Well, it's funny you bring this up. I actually was talking to a girl before a Blue Jays game a week ago, I guess it would be now. And something came out in Toronto, and it's been going over the U.S. as well, where a lot of states are changing the rules for women to become firefighters.
Oh, yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
I got in this argument.
So, it hasn't passed in the South because the South says these are the physical rules that need to be accomplished in order to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
For example, no matter who you are, you have to be able to physically carry out a person of X weight on your shoulders up and down some stairs.
Yeah, and this is one of those issues where it's
Right.
really just like cut and dry. It should be really obvious that that's the right choice, you know. And then hopefully we can have a more nuanced discussion about like, more kind of borderline cases. But this is not a borderline case, firefighters.
Well, I don't think it is, because I want my life. If someone, man or woman, can't lift me out unconscious and carry me out of a burning building, then not only am I in danger, they're in danger.
Yep. And let's be even clearer. Let's be even more clear. This is not a male-female thing. This is a strong, weak thing. Most men cannot be firefighters. Most men can't. It's not.
Yeah, I knew a couple people I grew up with that tried to become firefighters, and they failed the test. Therefore, they're not a firefighter.
Exactly. Most men cannot be firefighters. This is not a male. Like males are just allowed and females.
So, in the case of, I forget what part of Canada. It's probably Ontario, but there are definitely a lot of counties and states in the Northeast and the Midwest that are changing the law specifically to accommodate more women to be firefighters, such as a woman only has to carry half the weight of a man.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say, for example, male A test says you have to carry a minimum of 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, the woman only has to now carry 150 as opposed to carrying 300, because the argument is, well, not a lot of women can carry 300 pounds. Well, neither can men.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to see for a definite actual test that says something like that, because I know like Canada, we had the Supreme Court go at it, and they ruled on the side of women have to have that, or they ruled on, basically ruled on the side that we have to increase the number of women firefighters, basically. But they didn't say anything about
this is just one example.
Yeah.
That I remember reading. It's not in the case of everything, but there are rules changing just to get more females into the firefighting force.
Yeah. Well, I think the way that the Supreme Court, like the way they kind of ended up with it in the end, is they said, well, let me think here. So it's not that you have to have more female firefighters on the ground running into burning buildings, but like a firefighting organization altogether has to have a more equal gender distribution.
Right.
Not necessarily 50-50, but it has to be. It's something to do with the job requirements cannot be. Yeah, I forget the exact wording, but the job requirements can't be of undue hardship on the employer. Mm-hmm. While remaining as gender neutral as possible. So if it turns out, or something like that,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen gender inequality at its best working offshore, because some of my favorite people to work with, I made best friends with a girl working offshore. Yeah. And she does like MMA and shit, so she's far from a weak person, right? Well, there are cases where she will not be let on rigs unless there's another female with her, because they don't want to accommodate an entire room for just one person.
Oh, right, like a bathroom.
Well, usually the rooms come with...
Oh, you mean like a bedroom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, usually the rooms come with a bathroom that's attached to another room, so it's rooms and a bathroom in the middle.
Right.
But you can lock both doors.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I've had to live with girls who make a big deal about the fucking bathroom, but that's just them being fucking pains in the asses. Like, you can definitely share a bathroom with two genders.
Right. There is such thing as pooping in the same place.
Yeah. And I mean, in fact, it's kind of ridiculous that we don't share bathrooms between genders. The whole idea of separating genders, like, gendered bathrooms to me is just so weird.
I mean, it's where...
I understand
there's a reason behind it that goes without saying, but for, I guess, someone like myself, where I don't see what's so wrong about it, because I'm not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just one of those cases.
Well, even then, it doesn't seem particularly fair to the female.
What do you mean, not fair?
Well, because she doesn't get a job because they can't.
Oh, okay, back to that point. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And that's why when Halliburton, for example, was questioned and caught by the DEA through whether it's underpaying their employees and whatnot. They got in a lot of trouble because there's rules in the United States where a company has to have so many female percentage of employees.
Yeah.
But more than often, the case is not so much the females are being turned down. The fact that there's so little that you can't... the amount of accommodation offshore is very limited for the amount of employees. So I can see where they're coming from is they have to accommodate a female on their... Like, they can't have adjoining bathrooms with a female next door, right?
Okay.
But if there's only one female offshore, then they get 2 rooms when they could have 4 males working. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just inconvenience to
they see it as
gender.
they see it as more of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
but then
it is, but
yeah.
that's also totally not fair. And from a social engineering perspective, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah. But again, women, at least in the experience I had, there just aren't women that... I mean, how many women honestly want to spend their careers working offshore in the first place? There's not even a lot of males that want to do that.
Well, how many people want to?
Exactly. So you're slicing percentage upon percentage. So there's only this very small percentage of this percentage that want to do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go to any oil rig out in the Gulf of Mexico, there's maybe 4 women total on the entire operation.
Yeah.
When there's 250, possibly more people on the job.
Yeah. But they're getting laid.
Well, I mean, it's illegal out there. That is the rule.
It's illegal?
Yeah, you can't have sex offshore.
That's not...
No alcohol, no sex, none of that.
You can't legally prevent people from doing that.
Yeah, you get caught having sex, you're kicked out, and then you're blacklisted.
Those are the rules, but those aren't. Yeah, it's not illegal. Well, I guess it's illegal by like corporate rules.
It's illegal by the corporate rules and regulations. Yeah. Same reason it's in the same category as you can't bring alcohol offshore with you.
That's kind of nuts.
Well, I was having a funny conversation where, I mean, just think about it. You have a bunch of people from like Alabama that do nothing but drink, smoke, chew their dip, and you're isolating them where they can't do 3 out of those 4 things, and then you're also going to prevent them from having sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason why when they're out for 2 to 4 weeks at a time, there's a reason why there's like strip clubs and hookers right when they come offshore, ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, this conversation took a wild turn, didn't it?
I guess it's all the same general theme, I guess.
Yeah, it's all theme. Well, in Metroid Prime here, it's just non-stop backtracking at this point.
Is it?
Yeah, don't know where to go, just kind of wandering, looking for the next area to be in.
Is this a big boss right here?
Well, okay, so there was a boss earlier in this room. Now there's just a big one of those dinosaur spike guys, just kind of chilling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you just don't have to fight him.
So, you know what game was actually a really awesome Metroidvania game that I didn't even realize at the time? Batman Arkham Asylum.
I would say that's just a regular old action adventure.
No, because you keep on using upgrades to keep on backtracking through the same areas and open.
Oh, I see what you're saying in that aspect. I don't know if I would call it technically Metroidvania. Because it's one giant... Well, I guess, is Metroid Prime even considered Metroidvania? I see it is because you're constantly backtracking.
That's the same
the
with
entire game.
With Arkham Asylum you are as well.
I just see that as a sandbox game.
I don't think you can call it a sandbox game because it is pretty like...
But you are getting more weapons that get you access to new areas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Arkham City is definitely more sandbox.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe I'll agree with you on Arkham Asylum being Metroidvania.
We'll put it this way. Asylum is definitely more Metroidvania than City is.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't see City as Metroidvania at all because it's all open almost right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Asylum really isn't. You have to keep on opening up different areas.
Yeah. You know they're making they're remastering both City and Asylum.
Yeah.
For the PS4, but it's also going to incorporate VR later down the road.
That'll be cool.
I don't know how that's going to work out.
It'll probably be really crap, but
how would you have VR Batman? Is he just going to stand and have hordes of enemies and you just like grappling hook, batarang? That's it?
I don't know how they're going to do VR anything because right now it just seems like kind of a dumb idea.
Like I love the idea of a first I played the trailer for Resident Evil 7, the trailer demo.
Okay.
And that seems like the perfect VR because you have the analog stick and then you have the Move controller.
Okay.
And then it's all first person, you're moving your head. It's a horror game. That seems a perfect idea for
So it's like
VR.
it's basically like it's basically like playing it on the PS4 except that the screen is attached to your head and it moves with your head.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. If somehow that can be incorporated into more games, then it's totally sold on me. Yeah. What about you? You agree?
Sounds good, yeah. I guess so.
But as of right now, there's only that game and Eve Valkyrie that I want for PlayStation VR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it all turns out. I mean, I'm intentionally late adopter to every one of these things.
Yeah. I think I'll be getting the PlayStation 4 Neo when it comes out.
Okay.
I think I'll be getting that. Depending on how well VR is received.
I mean, I just bought Shadow of Mordor a couple days ago, and it's like one of the best games of the last couple of years, apparently.
Yeah, it got very good reviews. A lot of. I mean, my friend had it. I played it with him a little bit. It was fine. I wasn't too into it because it's just Batman in Lord of the Rings. Batman mechanics with Lord of the Rings characters.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. It was like on Steam sale, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that pretty much does it for this Metroid Prime video.
Okay.
We'll have to think about more things to talk about for the next one.
Maybe I should just look up Camille Paglia and learn more stuff about her.